Hi, welcome to people who are just joining us. Thank you for being here. I'm Katie Mathias from the Conservation Finance Alliance, and we're going to give people about another minute or two to join, and then we'll get started. So thank you. For those who have already joined us, if you could please put your name and where you're coming from in the chat, just to introduce yourself, gives us a sense of where everyone is coming from. Hi, everyone who's joined us. We're just going to give one more minute for people to finish signing in or being admitted, and then we'll get started. If you haven't already, please introduce yourself in the chat. Okay, but why don't we get started? We may have a few more people joining us. Welcome to everyone. Excuse me, I'm Katie Mathias from the Wildlife Conservation Society and the Conservation Finance Alliance. Thank you all for joining us. This is the 7th webinar in our webinar series on the practice standards for conservation trust funds. And today we'll be talking about technology. So today we're going to deviate a little bit from our usual format. Let me share the program for today. If you've been joining these webinars on a regular basis, you know that we usually have an introduction on the context of the standards that we're talking about, followed by several case studies and a Q&A. And we do it in the Zoom webinar format so that everybody has their cameras off and can never really interact with each other. And so we thought we'd take advantage of the topic today about technology to use some of this technology to have a slightly different approach. So I will be giving a quick introduction to the standards and what's new in the technology standards. We will have a case study from Emilio Lugo from FCBT in Paraguay, and following a short Q&A, we'll then move into some small group breakout rooms so that we can have more actual conversations with colleagues and learn what's been working for others, and maybe get some of our questions answered and also share what's been working for us. So we'll do that towards the end of the webinar, and it's a little bit experimental, so hopefully it will work. I want to point out that we do have simultaneous translation today for Spanish and English, and thank you to RedLAC for making that possible. So if you are, if you haven't already, please look at the bottom of your screen. There is a globe-shaped icon that says interpretation. Please make sure that you choose English or Spanish based on the language that you would like to be able to listen in. and Roxana is translating for us throughout. So thank you. And again, thank you to Redlac for making that possible. Because we're not in the webinar format, we're in the regular meeting format, please make sure that you have turned off your cameras and your microphones unless you're the one speaking. And as I asked for those who were here right at the beginning, please, if you can, introduce yourself in the chat so people know who you are and where you're coming from. We will also use the chat for Q&A. So if you have questions, please either use the chat to ask your question, or you can raise your hand and we'll ask you to unmute your microphone. So let me just give a little bit of context quickly about where the technology standards came from. As just awareness, and I think we all know this, but technology infuses everything that conservation trust funds are doing. And it was an area of discussion during the first standards discussion in 2014. It wasn't an area that we had the time to fully expand in the first set of standards, but it was always on the radar screen for when it was time to do an update. So when the 2020 edition came out, technology was part of the mandate to ensure that we were fully reflecting, that the standards were fully reflecting the reality for conservation trust funds. Technology has a number of benefits. Obviously, it's promoting innovation, cost savings, making CTFs more efficient, and enabling all kinds of communication that would not have been available to us 10 or 20 years ago, but certainly also adds challenges and frustrations. And as if we didn't already know that, the pandemic certainly highlighted a number of those issues. The daily meeting participants for Zoom in December of 2019, before the global pandemic, was 10 million daily participants. By March of 2020, it was up to 200 million. By April, it had hit 300 million. It's currently around 350 million daily meeting participants. So a massive transformation of how we interact with one another, as we're obviously demonstrating today through this webinar. So I would like to, again, to use a little technology to find out how technology has been affecting those of you on the call. So we're going to use the poll function within Zoom. And the first question to ask what's working for you within CTF. So if you check your screen, the question will come up. Which technology has been most helpful to your conservation trust fund or your organization? Social media, using drones, either for monitoring and for communications and photos, being able to capture images that you share with your stakeholders, contact management software, web-based applications like finance and accounting and reporting, and web-based communications like Zoom and Skype and WhatsApp. So we'll give you about a minute to answer that question, and then we'll show the results and see what people are finding most helpful to them. All right, give about another 15 seconds to answer, and then Andrea, if you can put the results up on the screen. Okay, far and away, the most impactful technology for
So, Katie, we lost you. Well, we can go ahead and maybe share the results. Web-based communications, and in this case, Zoom, Skype, and others have been the ones that are most impactful. followed by web-based applications. And in this sense, we're seeing finance, accounting, probably also monitoring software. Moving forward, we're going to see where Katie is, if we lost her completely, or if she's coming back. Okay, so Katie is going to be back on shortly. It's interesting to see that drones are not as relevant. So this is something that has not been used a lot. Hi, Katie, you're on mute. Just make sure you unmute yourself.
Wow, that was like a preview of the next question, and I swear that was not planned, but I did spontaneously lose myself.
Okay.
So
Go ahead, Katie.
let's put up the second question if we can, because it is literally about challenges that people are facing with technology. And if I had planned it, that would have been really quite impressive. So if you could indicate, what have been your biggest technology challenges? Reliable internet access, which will clearly be my answer today. Access to hardware and software that you need. Access to reliable technical expertise, being able to find consultants, and issues around data security, viruses, and malware. So again, take about a minute to answer that question, and then we'll post the results. Okay, if everybody's had a chance to answer, can we put up the results and see what people had to say? All right, about half of the group sharing my issues around internet access today. Being able to reach reliable and skilled consultants who have the technical expertise that's needed, coming in relatively close second, and then hardware and software coming in third. Fortunately, not as many issues around data security, viruses, and malware, which is great to hear. So let me move on and give a little bit of context and overview on what's new with the standards, and specifically with technology standards. There are 7 standards in the technology cross-cutting theme. So again, technology is not a core area within the standards, it's one of the cross-cutting themes. The standards are in institutional effectiveness, programs, and administration. And while there are not technology standards in risk management and safeguards, I highlighted it here because all of these standards relate to risk management, in that having effective policies and controls in place helps to minimize risk for CTFs, risks of data loss, of hacking, and losing significant risk of losing critical data like finance and reporting and monitoring data. So the technology theme relates to the internal controls and policies that manage technology use, help to increase efficiencies, and help to minimize risk. It deals with cybersecurity, a fund's internet presence, the ability to standardize operations across the organization, and making sure that key software is up to date and as effective as possible. So it deals with like the financial administration software, contract management, it touches on procurement. Specifically, the 7 standards, and I won't read through each of these in detail, but I did just want to highlight them. Within institutional effectiveness, a new standard this year around maintaining a public presence on the internet through a website or social media. Program standard 3 was previously in the standards, but had not been identified as technology, and now is noted as fitting within that cross-cutting theme. Program standard 11, a new one around being able to track online proposal applications and track progress. And then within administration, 3 new standards, 10, 11, and 12, specifically related to technology, and Administrative Standard 8, which was already a standard, recognizing that it does touch the issues around procurement touch deeply into technology, not just on how software and hardware are procured, which is of course important, but also the ability to use technology to facilitate that process. So with that, I am going to hand the screen over to Herminio Lugo from FCBTM Paraguay, who will share a case study on how they have been using technology to partner with their grantees. So Herminia, the screen is yours.
Muchas gracias, Kate. Buenos días.
Good morning, everyone.
Saludos desde Paraguay.
Greetings from Paraguay. I would like to share the experience that we have in the Tropical Forest Conservation Fund in Paraguay with the application of technology for 9 years now. So, like I say, it's been 9 years in the application of this technology that brought about lots of questions because it's a change in paradigm. And is it that this tool will be functional? Is it that it's going to be accepted by all stakeholders, both us as well as a donor entity, as all other entities that carry out projects? How useful can it be? It also brought about a desire to learn. This generated with training, with the system design. And once we learned this knowledge, we had to transmit to those in charge of the various beneficiary entities of the project. This tool also brought about lots of production efficiency, usefulness, because it was designed and it was customized. To have access to the system, it's done through a web page, www.fondodeconservaciondebosques.org.py/sistema. As you can see at the bottom of the screen, how to access to it. Once we're there, we log in, insert our user and password. Each unit has its own password, and we as administrator, we have our own password as well. This is the main menu, the landing page, and this is what we'll be developing. First, we have the activity plan and budget. This is the area where we put the name of the project, the entity, the period, and who prepared this. Over here, we have the financial reports, and this is the tool that we use the most because expenses happen almost every day. So we can have access to these expense records. We have a chart that shows the project name. This is already uploaded, populated by each person in charge of monitoring beneficiary entities. And we have the items that we use in our project, the direct costs, monitoring, and indirect costs. Under the budget of donations approved, each line has an amount and then the counterparty. The entities that work with the project have to contribute 25% of the total value of direct costs. This is an example of how the financial report is presented. The project name, the entity, agreement number, the various items to which these expenses are destined, the budget approved for the donation, the contribution budget, and the total amount. Here, you will be able to see what's the record for disbursement for each one of the expenses. In the previous presentation, we had the amounts for each budget. Here, we show the expenses recorded. For instance, we have investments, direct costs. In the first disbursement, the equivalent in expenses once approved. After the verification pertinent adjustments, we go to the second disbursement and each entity records the expenses that they're having in the execution. And then we go to the second disbursement. Adjusted, revised, and verified. And then we go to the third disbursement. And over here, we register each one of the expenses in the various line items, leading to an accumulated to date and current balance of expenses of the budget for each line. And the same thing is true with the balancing entry. We have the first disbursement, entities register, then second disbursement, a revision, and a third disbursement up to the project finishes. This is an example of an activity that is being developed, and so far they're in their third disbursement. And the same is true for the donation expenses and the balancing entries. We know the total cumulative amount and therefore the balance for each line item. Over here, we have the list of the detail of expenses, a breakdown of expenses, and we see each one of the expenses made and the date that we see in the expense slip. Over here, you can see the verification indicator, and it allows us to review each one of the expenses and if they're in agreement with the standards approved and the budget, and it's verified with a yes. If there are questions or a follow-up or a voucher is missing or something, then it has a no. Up until the entity reports on the questions that we have to get a yes. Over here, we have expense recorded by document. And just like in the previous screen, we have the possibility of verifying by clicking yes. They don't have the possibility of making changes to the line items here. While in no, they can make adjustments precisely because of questions we might have or because we need further information. We keep the no so that they can make the necessary corrections or extend the description. In this case, it has to do with the first disbursement for remunerations. This is the voucher date, the description of the expense, who the supplier was, voucher type and number, amount, and we can look at the voucher here. In the case of the payment of remuneration, we require a report of the activity carried out to pay for this. So we can have access to a second attached file where you see the report. In this case, it's an admin report for June. Then the progress reports, technical progress reports. Here we can see how we complete the record of data to have access to this progress technical report. This is a list of all of the reports that have already been recorded. As you can see, there's an attachment, a file, and when we click on it, we can look at this file, which is right here. This file has a predetermined format by the Tropical Conservation Fund in a Word format where entities register their activities, the data. They can include pictures, maps, verification means like a payroll, the list of beneficiaries. So there's lots of data. And once this is verified and we have the person in charge of the project approved, then we attach to the system. This is the way in which a technical progress report is completed, to what date it corresponds to, the project name, and you can see you have an arrow indicating that it's predetermined. It's already uploaded. The entity it corresponds to, the agreement number of this donation, the date, and the report right here through the file. This is the area that has to do with the final technical report. And this is added in the same way than the progress report. This is the list of the final technical reports already registered. We can have access through the files. So the technical report is attached. It's the same way of uploading in the system, but this file has a different format. It has a different needs. It's a technical progress. It's the final report that requires results achieved by the project, and also we request indicators with a pre-specified format that they have to fill out because it's the end of the project activities. In the last section, we have general options. We can look at the list of projects, and in this case, you can see 4 of them, how they're added. And this allows you to add more projects. Then we have access to the logical framework. in the shaded area.
Aquí tenemos el listado de las entidades beneficiarias.
Then we have a list of the beneficiary entities,
A medida que vayan surgiendo más donaciones.
and we add to the extent that more donations are added. We add an entity in this field
Aquí tenemos el listado de
and
usuarios.
the user list.
Donantes, somos los
We, as the
administradores del
donor
sistema.
entity, we're the administrators of the system. So together with the user, we define a password so that they have access to it. It's a personal password, and it's assigned to a person for each beneficiary entity.
Esta es la manera de ir agregando el usuario como administrador que va a acceder a este cuadro,
This is how I add a user,
donde se encuentra el nombre del usuario,
where we have the
cómo va a estar
username,
denominado en el sistema, cuál es el
how it's going
password,
to be denominated or called in the system,
qué tipo de usuario,
password,
en este caso,
email, user type,
y cuál es
in
la
this case,
entidad
beneficiary,
que pertenece a este usuario.
and the entity this user belongs to.
Por último,
Finally,
los beneficios de poder
what
contar
were the
con esta
benefits of
información.
having this IT tool?
Primero que nada, contar con información de primera mano.
First, we have first-hand information in the shortest period of time
Facilitar el registro de las actividades
to facilitate the registration of activities
beneficiarias de donación,
by the beneficiary entities,
reducir amigablemente el uso de los papeles,
reduce the use of hard copies so that we
la
avoid
práctica anterior a este sistema de
what we
recibir
did
copias
before
de cada
of receiving
documento
hard copies of each expense document.
en promedio,
Imagine a project in average
40 hojas de
had
fotocopias de comprobantes
40 pages of photocopies of expense vouchers for us to verify, to
de su informe financiero.
verify the financial report. It's a lot.
También evitamos la pérdida de la
Then
documentación.
we avoid the loss of documents because there's no actual movement of them. Can you imagine what it would be for an entity to get their expense reports lost? It's very difficult to have access to a copy. We have to resort to the supplier, then that should be certified, and it's a headache that accountants would rather avoid.
Permitir el acceso a los proyectos,
Allow access to projects both by internal, external auditors, evaluators, an advisor to the entity that would like to learn more about a project. They can enter with a user and password, and they can have access to all of the information through their computers. To control and authorize expenses and follow accounting norm standards, enable constant review of the budget so that we can look at the project progress. And more than anything else, with this pandemic, this tool is very useful because it facilitates telecommuting. So we take care from this virus. Thank you so much. And I'm open to the questions you might have of all the work we've done in the Forest Conservation Fund.
Armenia, thank you so much. That was wonderful and really very interesting. We have several questions that have been posed in the chat. I'm going to turn it over to Maria Luisa Hernandez from Redlac to pose the questions. They're in both English and Spanish. And I think we should have time for probably at least 3 questions. So Maria Luisa, thank you.
Thank you, Katie, and muchísimas gracias, Herminia, por toda la información que nos compartió, especialmente poder ver
Thank you
cómo
for all the information you shared and take a look at this system, and it's unquestionably very useful. So we have 4 questions. We'll look at the first, Joseph Lacayo, that says, how long did it take for you to train the stakeholders, the beneficiaries, and how many people or institutions are being benefited? And how much was the total investment in dollars to create this system?
Bueno, no tenemos muchos proyectos, somos un fondo.
We don't have lots of projects. We're a small but very efficient fund.
Estamos en un equipo de 4 personas.
We have a team of 4 people,
Ejecutivo. Y tenemos más de 50
and
iniciativas ya.
we have over 50 initiatives already.
Ya
But
tenemos
in this
como
system, we have
entidades que son beneficiadas
15 entities that are benefited to have direct access to their technical reports, the final report, and the financial reports.
Nosotros tuvimos como 2 jornadas
Um,
diseñador de
the training time, it took us 2 days with the IT designer to learn about the tool and ask questions because it's fairly friendly. So you just click on it and go through the various steps.
¿Cuánto tiempo duró la
How
capacitación?
long did the training take?
Una reunión inicial
We carry out an initial meeting when we formalize the project through a donation agreement. We ask
tanto técnico como financiero que
for the technical or financial liaison to participate in the meeting. We show them the system.
prestación como de media jornada.
It's like a half-day training, but because it's constant follow-up, thanks to this tool,
Nosotros estamos revisando
on a regular basis,
nuestras orientaciones
we provide guidance to the users for each activity that they request.
Bueno, ¿cuánto costó? Yo creo que ese dato no.
How much did it cost?
9 años.
It was 9 years ago, so it's no longer very relevant.
Dólares.
And I'm going to say it in dollars with the current exchange rate. Let me make a fast calculation. It was not very costly.
Decir que cerca
I can say around $3,000,
implementarlo. Pero también requiere de
but
mantenimiento.
it also requires maintenance. And precisely now, we're doing this with the
Tercerizado.
outsourced IT company to update it
Y siga siendo tan útil.
and to make sure that it keeps working as well.
Muchas gracias. Voy a hacer como una mezcla entre un par de preguntas.
I'm going to combine a couple of
Pregunta,
questions.
si hay alguna forma en que los miembros de la Junta
Is
Directiva
there any
puedan
way
acceder
that the
a
board
esto,
members
o
can
si
have
hay un
access to
acceso
this?
público a la
Or
base de
is there a
datos,
public
por un lado?
access
Y
to
también
the
tengo una
database?
pregunta
And there's a
si,
question as to
Charles,
whether
dice
from
que
Charles
este
that
software
says that
creó
it was
en
this
ustedes
software
o
built
y
from
si lo
scratch on
compraron
your
o
organization,
lo
or did you buy it
hicieron,
and
¿verdad? Ajustarse a
customize
las
it
condiciones de la
to
organización
your
de
organization,
producción.
and why?
Entonces, básicamente las preguntas van en torno
So
a, por un lado,
basically,
la
it's
posibilidad de
around
tener acceso de datos,
the
la información que generamos,
possibility to look at data with
la
the
calidad
information we
que
get from
podemos
here
acceder a esos
and
datos.
who can have access to the data.
Ustedes habrán visto en la presentación de que se
You
cuenta
must
con
have
un
seen in the
usuario y una
presentation that we have a user and password. In this case, the main stakeholders are the technical and financial officers in each beneficiary entity. So we provide a user and password so they can have access to it. And if somebody wants to learn more about any one of the projects, we share a password and they have access to it, to all technical or financial records. Actually, because every year we have an external auditor visiting us, we already provide them with a password and user for them to take a look at every expense, to audit, so they have access to the voucher because it's scanned. The same is true of the technical reports. It's on an attached file. So everyone close to the fund that for a specific reason would like to go over it, we provide authorization and share them. The information is on the webpage with a list of beneficiary entities, the various projects, and the amount each project meant in terms of donations. But the system, it has to be people that we authorize that we can share a password with. The next question was whether this system was done from scratch or if it's customized. We hired an IT person. We explained what the job is all about. And we did the review and adjustments. So this was not from scratch, but adjusted to the extent that our needs required.
Muchas gracias, Herminia. Katie, go ahead.
Great. Thank you so much, Armenia. This has been great. I know that we have a number of more questions that we could ask, but we also want to make sure that we leave time for the small group discussions. So let me introduce that, and then what we'll do is give everyone the chance to choose the breakout room that they will join. So we have 4 small groups. One will be in Spanish. We do not have simultaneous translation for the breakout rooms. So the one in Spanish about a discussion around technology tools for supporting administration, one in English with the same topic, one on social media strategies, and one on technology tools that support monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. Obviously, there may be some crossover around administration and monitoring, evaluation, and reporting. So I imagine there will be some overlapping conversations. Each room will have a facilitator. Maria Luisa Hernandez, David Myers, Scott Lampman, and I will be helping just to keep the conversation going. There's no specific outcome. There isn't, this is just an opportunity for people to talk amongst themselves in a more interactive way than we're usually able to do. So don't expect that there's going to be a report out or anything. And we're going to try to have the rooms be relatively equally distributed so that we can have good conversations. So the rooms will be about 15 people each, and it will just be first come, first serve. So with that, I will turn it over to Andrea to make it possible for us to choose our breakout rooms. And again, we'll have about 10 or 15 minutes for small group discussion.
Katie, do we come back to plenary?
Yes, we will be brought back to plenary, I think. And just to wrap up.
And while they're working that out, Katie, does Scott and I need to know which rooms to join?
Yeah, I'm in number 2. I think
Okay.
you're still on number 4, David.
Okay, perfect. All right, great.
Hi, sorry, can you send me to any breakout room? I can't seem to go on my own.
Yeah, same here. I don't seem to be able to join.
Yeah.
I can see some of them. Some people are in, which is good.
I can see you, David. I shouldn't be in the same room with you.
No, we're still in the main room, Scott.
Okay.
We haven't been allocated yet. But I'm sure the conversation that they're having is very interesting.
I was gonna say,
Actually, there's still about half of us that haven't been allocated, unfortunately. Oh, there it is. You can join. You can do it directly on the right side of the, if you go to breakout rooms, and this is good for everyone that's still on. And you click on the room that you'd like to join, and where there's a number there. If you slide your mouse over that number on the right side of that, it'll give you a join option. Okay, so I'm going to go join mine. Did you see that, Scott?
I don't see any of that, but let's see what I got going.
So down at the bottom, one of your options now is breakout rooms. Of your
Oh,
of your
yeah.
screen.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, okay, thanks.
Click on that, and then go to the title that you're in, right? And then where there's a number to the right, which says number of people, right? And okay, and Andreas invited
All
us
right,
to join.
thanks.
Okay, but I'm now at the wrong one. I think I'm on
Yeah.
social media, so I'm
Right.
going to join the one, the technology tools, right? That's for me, technology tools, I believe, right? Yes, Katie's there. Okay.
Hi everyone. Is anybody having any kind of trouble with entering the rooms?
Yeah, I got it. Yeah, it's from the breakout rooms. You need to select the places. Isn't it?
I'm sorry, everyone. Can you repeat the information?
I got it. I got it.
Perfect. If you need any help, let me know. Katie, I don't think anybody signed in for social media, so maybe if you want to enter another team, I can move you forward. Katie, you're on mute.
Just realized I was muted. Yes. And then is everybody else able to, it looks like you need to click on the breakout room button and then you'll have the choice to join a room. So if anybody has not opted to join a room and wants to, you just click on the breakout room button and then put your cursor next to the name of the group you want to join and just click join, and you'll be put into that room. And I may just hang out here in case, unless anyone else goes into the social media room. All right, I'm going to go pop in on Scott's group, but if, Andrea, if you need me, you can WhatsApp me.
Perfect. Irene, thank you, Katie. Irene, ¿a cuál sala te gustaría entrar? Porque yo te puedo también agregar. If someone's having trouble with entering the rooms, you can also give me a heads up in the chat in which conversation you would like to engage, and I will add you to the group. Thank you.
Que Liliana dice que para que le pregunte a Iván que si no importa eso. ¿El qué? Que ella dice, vamos a comprar ahora 106.
That can then help us, yes, create this this little reports easier. So this is where we're at. We are also, like, all of the payments and all of that, we are doing them straight through Zoho. So we have, like, the officer, like the technical officer, we put the checks, and then the financial person says, like, okay, go money, and then the person in charge accepts or approves the payments. So it's all online now, and we just started this about 1 year ago. So we're very happy with the improvement, and it saved us a lot of time.
So I was just curious.
In our case, we use only, we don't use internet to access that. We use it only on our local network.
Got it.
Okay. For the one in which we use, it's with the network actually. So let's say if the CEO wants, she can remotely log in with the company's laptop at her home.
Got it.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to hijack the conversation. I'm just a little bit of an accounting software nerd, so I'm curious in what people are doing.
No, that's important. I really want to make sure Kwame and Ahmed get their needs met. So were there any specific questions from that talk that you would like to explore a little bit here?
Yes, actually. I didn't get much on it because I was in another meeting at the time, so apologies for that. I had to log in a bit late. The actual tool that we're speaking of here, I really would like to have like a formal introduction and someone that can go through it with me so I can like get hands-on experience with it as well, please, if that's possible.
Boy, wouldn't it be nice to still have the red light meetings where we could have breakout groups in person and do training with one another? I'll make note of this and we could actually get back. I don't know, Katie, if you were planning on doing that, getting back with the speaker to maybe see what she could organize with you one-on-one, Kwame.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
Yes.
I'm actually going to ask Armenia if there's anything we can do to have people reach out to her directly.
Yeah, that would be helpful. It's interesting that I just assumed that the software being used was fairly standard for most funds, but clearly for the smaller funds, it still is not. Somebody was trying to say something here. Andrea, are you online?
Yes, hi, Kuen. I could send Armenia's contact information so you can reach out to her and the Paraguay Fund, so you can ask her all the questions you have, if that works for you.
Fantastic. Hey, I think we're at the time right now, Katie. If you want to have plenary again, that's the kind of information you want to share. So I'm going to say we're done here.
Yes, I think so. And Andrea, can we, since it's almost the hour, can we bring people back to the main room and we'll wrap up and just let them know that Armenia is okay with letting us share her contact information?
Yes, this is, but we have a list of contact information from Rodlac that we can also share, so that we have her email there, so we can, it's okay for us to share. I just sent everyone a message to let them know that we're just running in 1 minute, so I will stop the sessions now. Thank you.
Great, thanks. All right, thank you, everybody. I'm going to jump back to the plenary.
Okay. Feel free to jump back to the plenary.
We should take advantage and make a picture now that everyone has their cameras on. Deberíamos aprovechar.
Yeah, that's a good point. Hold on, I'll stop sharing my screen and we can, yes, as long as everybody has your cameras on, turn them back on. We'll take a picture really fast while I'm talking. I just want to thank everyone for coming. I know that we could have kept going with the small group discussions for another probably 30 or 40 minutes at least. So we'll try to see if we can find more ways to do these discussion groups. A number of people asked about ways to follow up with Armenia about the software tool that they are using. So Armenia, if you're okay with this, Redlac can share your email address, your contact information, and people may touch base with you about more about the tool that you're using. And we will also, hopefully, if some resources or tools were shared within the breakout rooms, we'll put those on the CFA website so that we can continue the knowledge sharing. So similarly, if you have tools or resources that you want to share with the group, you can email them to the CFA Secretariat and we'll get them posted on the practice standards page. Did we get the picture? Can I share my screen really quickly?
Yes.
Great. Let me just share quickly the upcoming, the remaining webinars in this series. We have coming up in August will be the webinar on governance and institutional effectiveness. During the virtual REDLAC assembly in September, we'll have a webinar on using the standards for accreditation. Number of CTFs have become accredited by the GCF, the GEF, and the Adaptation Fund. So we'll draw on that expertise and how the standards supported that process. In October, we'll talk about risk management and safeguards. November, we'll talk about how to use the standards in the startup phase of a CTF. And then in January of next year, we will talk about assessment and self-assessment using the standards. So again, I want to thank everyone for joining us. It was great to see you all and to get to see your faces. Thank you to REDLAC and to Roxana for the translation, which was great to be able to have a more interactive discussion. And thank you to David and Scott for helping to facilitate, and to Marisa for facilitating the breakout rooms. Thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you in August.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Katie.
Thanks, everyone.
Gracias a
Thanks
todos.
for having us.
Bye bye.
Gracias a todos. Que pasen muy bien.
Yes.